You're listening to the Play Pouch once again. Welcome back. I'm joined by my illustrious partner, Nick. How you doing, buddy?
Love it. Yeah, I'm okay. Good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Been working on some AI. It's a real headache, but it's getting there slowly but surely. We've got some more news articles for you today. I know. We normally dedicate ourselves to one sort of topic per podcast, but there's not really much else to talk about until we've sort of completed our run through of Final Fantasy VII. I say our run through of Final Fantasy VII. I don't have the game. I was watching Maximilian play it. He has finished playing it, and I'm just sort of gathering my thoughts and all that kind of thing.
And how many hours did it take him, Pete?
I don't know. I think it was somewhere in the region of 70 or something.
It's meant to be a long game, especially if you do all the side content.
Yeah, which is what he was doing. So,
yeah.
But anyway, yes, look out for that soon. We're very much looking forward to discussing that one. But we're going to start off with some small news, and then we're going to sort of go into some fairly elongated discussions, if you like. All right, so first on the agenda is Microsoft leak. I hate this fucking term. It's just like, really, it leaked. You sure they didn't sort of put it out there to test what the viewers' opinions are? Anyway,
It's just funny that this leak comes just after the PlayStation Pro leaks.
I know it's just like so fucking convenient,
isn't it? Just
anyway, leak reveals Microsoft's next Xbox with a familiar design. So it's as we feared. This model, there is no disk drive, and it's a all digital console.
as we expected.
Yeah, I mean, it will have a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD, which is nice, double the capacity.
It needs it, Pete. It really does.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it? Apparently, it'll be. We don't know the specs of it, basically, but as we were saying in our previous podcast, we don't think it's really worth it unless you don't have one of these consoles anyway, and you want one. So, yeah, that's that. Really, I am disappointed that there's no disk drive, and considering all the issues that Sony have had in recent times with their digital marketplace, etc., it's not a good sign. And yeah,
not for me, Pete. I won't be getting it. I want to hang on to my reduced price used games as long as I can.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to rush into doing that. Obviously, the next gen, I don't think there's going to be any disk drives for the next gen, so won't have a choice then. So, but nah, not for me.
Well, they want to have a disk drive. They need to have an option. If they're going to increase the price point for that, fine. But it's just not a good. It's not a good sign. We need physical media. I'm sorry, but we really do. I'm at the point where it's like, well, if you're not going to go with a disk drive, then I don't really want the console, because I want the choice. Even though the past few games I've bought were digital games, I mean, that's fine when it comes to the PC, but the consoles aren't PCs. I mean, they are technically, but then they're kind of not, because they're owned by one company, and there's a whole, it's not a free market, so to speak. But that segues very nicely onto the second bit of minor news.
Okay.
Phil Spencer has suggested that Steam could arrive on the Xbox Series X. So this is kind of a big deal. The rumbling rumors that Microsoft was going to become an entirely third-party publisher were eventually tucked into bed and were briefly told nighty-night following the underwhelming announcement that merely 4 Xbox games would be going multi-platform. Woo. During a recent interview with Polygon at GDC 2024, CEO of Microsoft Gaming Phil Spencer revealed plans about the possibility of other digital storefronts coming to Xbox consoles with an interesting chat. The big takeaway? When Polygon asked him directly if he could envision a future where the likes of PC gaming platforms such as the Epic Games Store may appear on Xbox Series X, he certainly seemed open to the notion. Yes, was Phil's simple, oh so direct answer. What do you think about that? I mean, it's nice, but doesn't that take away from their Game Pass franchise a little bit? I mean,
yeah. So I mean, I'm not the PC gamer you are, mainly because my PC can't run most of the stuff yours can. But I do use, when I do play my PC games, like Stellaris and a couple of Civilization, there's a couple of games I can play on it. I go through Steam. I would never use them on the Xbox. I wouldn't, it's not something that I would ever do.
Yeah.
As well as like the controls as well, because a lot of the games, obviously on PC, you need a mouse and keyboard, and unless you're going to really, really do that with the consoles, which I guess it depends on your setup. I guess it depends on where you play your consoles, but when I think of a console, I think of me sitting on my couch. If I'm on PC, I'm on my desk, right? So if I'm on my console, I'm on my couch. So I'm not going to have a mouse and keyboard on my couch. It doesn't seem a good idea to me.
Well, you can already use a mouse and keyboard on the Xbox. It's just whether it's compatible with games, isn't it? So I would assume that they would enable the use of the keyboard and mouse with certain Steam games.
Pete, do you think there's a demand for this? I don't see it, but maybe that's just me. Is there a demand for Steam to be on the Xbox? Have you heard a massive cry out?
Not at the moment, no. But I think it's a nice thing to have. If you don't have a powerful PC like yourself, then and there's a game that's sort of like Steam exclusive or whatever, then I guess it's a good idea. But having said that, I don't think there is many Steam exclusives, is there? It is sort of like a platform that sort of with games that are available on other platforms.
And how would that work with PlayStation games? Because as you know, some PlayStation games do go onto the Steam. So what you're telling me? You're telling me that you could play PlayStation games on your Xbox via Steam then?
Well, that would be magic, wouldn't it? But I don't think that would be the case. That would be just like a big fuck you to Sony, wouldn't it? That would be great.
They would never go for that, mate.
No, I doubt
They would never go for that.
Would be nice, but I don't think that would happen. But I mean, I think it's a nice thought. I think it is very much a speculative conversation there. But I think it would be nice for Microsoft's console economy. And
I can't see it on the current gen, but the next gen, maybe.
Yeah, definitely, maybe. Okay. So you have a couple of things you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's a big one that I think maybe we'll leave that to last because I think that's going to take probably the longest because it does, and that's about fast travel and RPGs and a game that's actually done it, and it follows on nicely from our last podcast because it's about the same game that I found out more about and got a bit of a laugh out of me considering the desire for fast travel to be, if not removed, then made much more difficult to do in RPGs. But we'll leave that to the end, I think. So, I would like to talk a little bit about No Man's Sky. They did release a trailer the other day for their latest expansion. Now, I don't know if it's going to be the last. It might be because, if you do remember, they did announce this new game that they are now working on, which didn't look that impressive to me, but it was the first image, and it was obviously procedure generated again, but it was like procedure generating a planet, wasn't it? But it was just it wasn't a space game. I can't remember what it was called, but they showed a trailer for it. Was it maybe
Yeah,
at the Game Awards? I can't
yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah.
exactly when.
I think it was game.
So that does suggest to me that support is going to be winding down, I would think, finally on No Man's Sky. But this Orbital, I think it's called, this trailer that dropped the other day,
Yeah,
and the two big things that I noticed, they've added some features, and they've said there's more to come. So there could be, some other features they haven't. But the big one, there's two big things. One is they are finally changing the way the kind of space stations work and look, because the space stations were always a little bit not dull, but they were all samey. They all looked the
they
same.
were all the same. Yeah, it didn't
Yeah.
feel like you were actually going anywhere. Basically,
Not really.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they will add different varieties to that, and it won't just be cosmetic. I hope there actually be a little bit more to it.
Well, they said that it's based on the type of system, isn't it? So the question is whether we'll get a similar looking station with similar system types, right? So I would like it to be unique completely, or have different sort of layouts with the same system, but I don't think we're going to get that.
Well, there's 3 different alien races, maybe 4 if you add these Sentinel things, but I don't think they're going to have a station. But there's three different alien races, and you could argue maybe they should have introduced more by now. I suppose that's fair. But also, they don't charge for these DLCs. But I think maybe people were like, well, how about you add more aliens and then charge us 10 quid or something? I think some people will be willing to do that. But as far as I know, there's no new alien races being added as of yet. So the space stations will differ based on the alien race that dominates the system. But also, there is different types of like economies and everything in these systems. So I'm hoping that the different economies also make the space station different. Like there's some economies systems that specialize in science goods, and some specialize like in trade goods. So I'm hoping that will also give a bit more variety. So like you say, so it feels a little bit like you're not just hopping from one kind of set tile set to the other, and it's a little bit more like variety and more vibrant, a little bit more.
Yeah, based on their economy, right? If it's a rich economy, you want it to be like a really nice
exactly. There's a whole bunch, and there's that stuff's already in the game. Different, like you say, different economies regarding how rich they are, but also the kind of products that are made can also play a role in that.
Yeah.
And another feature they did mention is new factions. I'm not exactly sure how many new factions they're adding, but they did mention like new faction stuff, and they also mentioned that when you send your fleets away, because you can like have your own fleets, which basically all they really are at the moment, or at least the last time I played anyway, where you send them off and they do the missions by themselves and they come back with rewards basically. But apparently they're adding a feature where these things can be attacked and then you have to fly and be a hero and rescue them. So that's all good stuff. They're all quite smaller features. But the big feature, I think, the big killer one is, after all these years, and I know this has been on players' wanted list, because even though I haven't played in probably about 2 years now was the last time I really played it. But even as far as then, and even before that, the big feature was making your ships.
Yeah.
And they finally added this. Now, I don't know we don't know really, because it was quite a short trailer, how in-depth, how many options there's going to be. And maybe what Starfield did maybe inspired them. I don't know. Because that probably arguably was the best part of Starfield, right? Was creating
it was, definitely. Yeah, it was.
And I don't know, when we recently spoke about Star Citizen, I don't know if that feature is in Star Citizen. I don't know. You'll have to answer that.
No. You can sort of swap out components like weapons and your engine and the warp drive and all that kind of thing. But as far as sort of cosmetic stuff, no.
Well, what I'm hoping this is you can literally build it from scratch. And they did mention that basically as you fly around the systems, you can come across wrecked ships or crashed, and you can come and harvest their parts. So that seems a little bit more interesting.
Cool.
It gives you something else to kind of do, because you can be like, you want to create your perfect ship and you're looking for a certain component. I'm sure you can probably buy a lot of them, but and that stuff it will give. We don't know how much creativity is going to be involved. We know that you can be very creative with the bases in the game.
Oh, I've
So
created some epic bases, man. I
that's what
really
I
have.
mean. So we don't know. We don't know exactly how it's going to work. We'll probably get more information.
Mm.
But yeah,
I
this is a
am.
feature that
I am
people wanted.
excited, to be honest, mate. With that, I mean, like it's making
Yeah,
me want to sort of go back and fuck about with it again.
I will. When that DLC drops, whenever it is, that will be when I go back. I think because I will want to. And then I will want to experience that. So I'll probably go back and probably start again, like I always do. I've started that game like 4 times, bruv.
Well, it's open for co-op, isn't it? So I don't know whether the co-op's changed.
The problem with the co-op, and it's always been a problem, is the stability of the game has always been. It's my only gripe with the game. 2 gripes. One is on the consoles. I'm not talking about the PC. I don't know how it runs on the PC nowadays, but on the
Really well.
consoles, on the Xbox anyway, it suffers from almost like memory leakage, as in the longer you play the game, the worse the performance gets. So what you have to do is like you play the game for like half an hour, and I found myself actually closing down the game every 30 minutes or so
Mm.
and relaunching it, and then it
Right.
would run okay, and then it would start lagging and dragging after like 30 minutes. So that was my workaround, but I wish I didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a RAM issue, isn't it, or like a memory load? The more star systems you go to and the planets you land on, etc.
Yes, right? Yes, yeah.
So, I mean,
it seems to clog it up. It seems
yeah.
to clog it up.
I mean, but to be fair to them, and I think we may have mentioned this before, is that they are literally like, we're sorry, the initial release of the game was so pants. Here is a ton of DLC, and they've committed to that. For how long?
What a redemption story! Yeah, what a redemption story.
Definitely.
The one I think the reason they were able to do it is because number one, they're a small studio, so their overheads are not going to be to the levels of other companies. And 2, I think when Microsoft cut them a deal to bring No Man's Sky over to Xbox after, because initially, if you remember, it was on PlayStation only and PC. And then when Microsoft brought them over, it's been on Game Pass the whole time. So I think Microsoft have kind of financed them. And I think that's how they've managed to kind of update the game, because they've been getting paid by Microsoft to be on Game Pass the whole. Because like on Game Pass, games come and go, don't they?
Yeah.
No Man's Sky has been there the whole time. It never goes. Yeah. So even though they're not owned by Microsoft, right? They're not like an official studio. Microsoft obviously works with them and has financed them to be able to update the game and stay afloat, basically. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. But yeah, bless them. They really have sort of turned it around. So
mad respect.
Yeah.
I'm hoping their next game, they get it right from the start and they haven't got to go through the same stuff they did. Even though the next game doesn't look amazing to me, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
There was something regarding, one sec. So there was a conference call the other day with, I like the studios. I think you like them a bit more than me, mainly because the Cyberpunk I haven't really played, but I certainly enjoyed The Witcher. And we're talking about, of course, CD Projekt Red. Yeah. Now, apparently there was a conference call the other day and a live streamed conference call. So this went public. And I'm looking at it now, they've kind of released, not a statement, but like a little kind of almost a graphic, which just says our pipeline. And I'm looking at it now, and it lists 3 different games revolving around The Witcher,
mm-hmm.
A game, another Cyberpunk game, and a new IP.
Yeah.
Now, these have all got different code names. So there's Polaris, which is the main Witcher, which we think is going to be Witcher 4. There's Sirius, which has been developed by the Molasses Flood, who I haven't heard of. And that's in the pre-production stage, and that's being supported by them. And then there's the Witcher remake, which apparently is being developed by a company called Fool's Theory.
Not heard
supported
of
by
them either.
CG. Have you heard of them?
No.
No. But that one's only the concept, so that one hasn't officially. So obviously they're still thinking about that one, I suppose. The Cyberpunk one is called Orion, and that's only in the concept phase, so they haven't started pre-production yet, which makes sense considering that the DLC expansion only came out the end of last year, didn't it?
Yeah.
And the new IP, which I don't think we know anything about, is in the concept phase as well, and that's called Hadar. But that one's being developed by CD Projekt Red, as well as the Cyberpunk game, also by CD Projekt Red. So I haven't played Cyberpunk. I know how much you like it. So for that one, it's a difficult one for me. The Witcher games, I've only played the third one, and it's one of the best RPGs around. You know that, the quality of the writing. I'm not sure there's any RPG that has the quality of the writing that game does. And that covers a lot. That covers a lot of good RPGs. But I think The Witcher. There's no game that has a side quest quality as The Witcher. That there just isn't.
I think when it comes to RPGs, storylines of RPGs, I think Witcher 3 is pretty much at number one, as you said, for the side quests, but the main quest as well, because it's the type of main quest where you can sort of jump in and out of it at will and not feel bad, as opposed to something like Fallout 4 where there's a sort of a sense of urgency and you feel like you have to complete the main quest, right?
Or just do farming instead and forget about your kid. Yeah.
Yeah, like that Angry Joe episode. Go watch it if you haven't. It's fucking amazing. But if I'm looking at a different graphic now, which is the number of developers and what they're doing. So there's 627 CD Projekt Red developers. 17 of them are working on Cyberpunk 2077. I assume that's some stuff to do with bug fixes and whatever, because there are still bugs. And with each patch, they seem to sort of fix one bug and break
something that's always away.
Yeah. And then you have like a small scattering of people working on Project Orion and Sirius and Hadar. But the major one is that the big Polaris one, 403 people, which we think is the Witcher 4.
I'd just like to ask something about the Sirius one, Pete. The Sirius one. What do we think that could be? Do we think it's going to be...
It's going to be a mobile game, mate.
Is it something like... I was about to say, is it going to be... more of a side story kind of thing? Is it going to be a different genre? Is it going to be a real-time strategy game or something set in the Witcher universe? Is there any information about it?
I have a funny... I don't think there's any information, but I have a funny feeling it's going to be a mobile game. It could be a card game. Could be a new sort of like Gwent game.
You mean?
Which, Gwent is a good card game. I don't hate it. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
The Witcher remake, obviously, is the first Witcher.
Would you be up for that?
Yeah. I remember playing the second one and being slightly bored. So I'm sort of slightly concerned about that. But yeah.
Would you think that would be a remake or a remaster? Would they just touch up the first game so it runs better and looks better?
If it says remake, it's going to be from the grounds up, isn't it? I would have thought.
Well, that's what it sounds like it. It doesn't say remaster, does it?
Yeah. Although some developers consider remasters to be remakes, which is like its own podcast in itself, I think. But curiously, there's 8 developers working on other projects. So that could be, this new IP. It could be something else. Who knows? And then 95 of them are working on like shared services, whatever that is.
Before we talk about obviously The Witcher 4, which is obviously the one we're obviously looking forward to the most. What do you think the new IP could be? What kind of... They're obviously... They make RPG games, right? So I don't think they're probably not going to shy... They're probably not going to shy away to make a different genre. But what setting? Do you think they're going to go space? Are they just going to say, okay, here's our space game?
To say, Bethesda, you suck. Here's our space game.
You suck, so here's our space game. I mean... there is only so many. They've already got the fantasy stuff, right? And then you've got. I mean, they've already got sci-fi, but not space sci-fi. They've already
Mm.
got the kind of futuristic cyberpunk game. So where else could this? What kind of setting would this other
I
IP?
I have no idea. I can't even begin to speculate. It could be anything, couldn't it? I mean, it could be like
Modern day shooter, Pete. RPG set in modern day. There you go.
it's maybe, I don't know, but I mean, like with there was a game announced at the GDC conference like a week or so ago, which is a Marvel Captain America game with Black Widow or whatever his name is, right?
Mm.
And that looks absolutely fucking amazing. And that was built with the Unreal Engine 5 with the new MetaHuman system. And it looks like real life. If you haven't seen the trailer, do go and watch it. So based on that, and based on the fact that CD Projekt Red have embraced Unreal Engine 5, anything's possible. It is quite exciting because I didn't know that they were working on a new IP. So yeah, I mean, like as I said, I can't even begin to speculate. But I hope whatever it is, it's going to be fandabidozy.
If it was space, other than having a giggle like we just did, is that market a little bit overtapped at the moment?
I don't think so, because a lot of the developers haven't gotten it right. I mean, I still say that Star Citizen is better than Starfield, to be honest, dude. And it's not even finished.
That wouldn't surprise me that much, considering what Starfield ended up being. Just
And
so dull.
The sheer scope and the amount of things that you can do in Star Citizen, the realism of it, the immersion of it is just absolutely, it just shits all over Starfield. And No Man's Sky kind of shits all over Starfield as well. Which
it does, as far as the whole exploration. Of course, it does easily. Yeah.
So as far as CD Projekt Red and their work, the fact that they've embraced Unreal Engine 5, I'm so happy, and I can't wait to see how Siri looks with the MetaHuman system and all of that kind of thing. So yeah.
All right then, come on then. So Polaris, it's pretty obvious what that is. So this is The Witcher 4. Now, we don't know anything about it. We don't know if you're still playing as Geralt. Now, storyline-wise, it did feel his story kind of was at an end. Now they can do things so that something forces him out of retirement or whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's storyline things you can do, but it did feel that was its natural conclusion. So would you rather them go all in with Ciri and she's the new protagonist, or do you think no, there's another game for Geralt, we can get another game out of him?
I do believe they mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I think they said that they're not doing a game with Geralt. I think he's probably going to be featured as a side character, but they didn't expressly mention Ciri was going to be the main character, but I think that's what we're all assuming. But that was back then. So I as I said, I could be wrong with that statement.
Here's a problem if they make Ciri the main character, as much as me and you do like her, right? Is she too powerful?
No. I just think that they can sort of work their way around that. She can sort of face challenges that other normal sort of, I say normal witches, but other witches sort of would dread to face. So it could sort of go a step up. Now, let's not forget that these Witcher games are based on books. I forget who the author's name is, and there's some legal issues, weren't there?
Is there no more books then? So this would totally be their own work then?
I don't know that. I know that there's a number of books, but I don't know whether I don't know how much they tapped into for the previous trilogy. So I don't know about that, but I would like, for me personally, I would like a trilogy with Ciri, and her trials and tribulations. Maybe we can have a storyline where she jumps to different universes and stuff.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
Like
Yeah, that would be
she
good.
jumps to the cyberpunk universe. I mean, that would take a serious amount of work, but
Yeah, but imagine if they had a Witcher game where there's 3 or 4 different places. Obviously, it's going to be linear, but there's 3 or 4 different places she jumps to, different settings. So, like, you get a couple of you get a map in the cyberpunk universe, and then you get a map in like a modern day. Imagine that. Imagine how crazy that would be.
Yeah.
To have and it's almost like a version of Earth in 2026 or something, whenever it comes out.
Yeah,
And it's
that would
like,
be cool.
What if they prequeled it? Yay or nay for a prequel?
Well, then that wouldn't involve Ciri, because Ciri wouldn't have been born.
No, it would have to be obviously a young Geralt. How about covering all the stuff where he initially meets Yennefer and all that stuff?
Like before he was a Witcher and stuff. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, like, I kind of trust them when it comes to the Witcher universe, because obviously they did a fantastic job with the previous one. We know with Cyberpunk that they were out of their depth in terms of the systems involved with creating a bustling, futuristic city. We all know that they should have contacted Rockstar and sucked them off for tips and stuff like that. But they know what they're doing with the Witcher universe, with the environments and stuff, and with the new features of the Unreal Engine that cuts down development time by a lot. As we know, they don't need to worry about things like LOD meshes. They can just drag and drop in the hero asset, and the system will just degrade it for them. They don't need to worry about any of that anymore. So the development time could be cut down by half, and it sort of gives them more time to focus on the story and stuff. So I am really, really sort of excited about what is going to come.
It's hard not to be excited about the next Witcher game.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't mind the first 2 being remade either, because
it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Witcher 3 was mine, and probably quite a lot of other people, to be honest, was my entry point into it. So I would like to go back and see, like the whole thing with Trish, for example, right? I mean, I had absolutely no knowledge, kind of, who she was, but I know,
Trish,
I know, yeah. But so, and did I say Trish today? Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Her obviously big storyline mainly takes place in The Witcher 2. I know that, but of course I have no context. So I'd like to have gone back and see if I made the wrong choice, because I chose just Yennefer and I didn't really have much to go on. It was just like, okay, I mean, that sounds like the one he's kind of true love kind of thing, but I didn't actually have any ideas to go on.
She dies in my playthrough.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she die? Yeah.
I was trying to do the right thing, and I discovered that she's dead. So it's like, oh.
No, mate, you got to chat them both up, and then try and get them in a threesome, and then they both say, "Matt, you tried to play us," and then they leave you tied up on the bed. That's
fuck you over.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, hopefully that is not. I mean, it's pre-production, so I mean, it is still quite a long way off.
I'd like to think that they're sort of they've got the OG author on board as well.
Hopefully,
but we'll see regarding that. So
yeah. So that leads us, I think, to the last thing, which is certainly the biggest topic for me, just because it ties in so well. So, in case there's anyone who hasn't, been listening to us from the start, we've kind of agreed that, we're both, our favourite genre for both of us is RPGs. And we've both said that one of the big problems with fast travel in games, and we understand why it's there, we do understand, but one of the problems with it is that it kind of ruins exploration a little bit.
It ruins immersion for me.
And immersion, yeah. And so it shouldn't be as accessible as it is. That doesn't mean you can't ever do it, but I think we kind of said that there at least should be some kind of price for it, at least, right?
Well, what do you mean by that? I mean, like, my argument was always take out fast travel, but add in other ways for us to travel. So, like, by carriage or by boat.
Yeah, that's what I mean by price. Yeah, so it's like if you travel, then you have to take a method of transportation, and it costs you, I don't know, gold.
And then you
which
can
is what
fast travel there,
weird.
or you can sit on the boat or the carriage and just
If you want to, you can
ride it.
sit, just ride it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So an RPG game has answered our prayers, Pete.
Have they?
Of a kind.
Do explain.
And this is the RPG we spoke about just last week, which is Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, when we recorded that last week, the microtransactions had just kind of come out, and everybody was like, where did this crap come from? Because it wasn't in the review copies for most streamers and most influencers. It just kind of appeared on day of release after they already had their copies. I believe some people have claimed, and don't quote me on this, that it was in the emails they got, but it was very strategically hidden away. And most people missed it. Now, I don't know how true that is. I have heard a couple of reports, but a lot of people are saying, well, no, I didn't see that. So like I say, if it was in the email they got with the codes and everything, it was very well hidden, which might say a lot. Anyhow, it turns out that in this game, you can fast travel. You need certain crystals to fast travel. Now, there's two types of crystals. One crystal is the resource you need to fast travel, and the other crystal is crystals you can place in the map to fast travel to. Now, it's quite interesting because if there's an area that you always go to, maybe there's a trader you like there or whatever, right? Then you can place one of these crystals as a fast travel point. But the thing is that some of these crystals, now you can find some in the game, but you can also buy them via microtransactions.
Of course you can.
Now, as I said, some of them are in the game, so I'm not going to sit here and say that you can only get them via buying, but you can get some via buying, and there are other ones to find, most likely probably in hidden away areas. So the other resource to fast travel, I can't, like I say, there's certain crystals and they cannot be bought. So that sounds to me that they're actually quite limited. So in a way, they have kind of done what we've asked by making it difficult to fast, not impossible, but difficult to fast travel to encourage exploration, which is what we wanted.
Yeah.
But then they've gone ahead and said, but if you don't really want to explore, you can buy these crystals.
Well, then what's the point of having an RPG? What's the point of buying that game if you don't want to explore? It's like go and play like Call of Duty then or something, or like, you know, an arcade RPG where, you know, it's like sort of heavily linear or something. What is the point of that? If you don't want to explore, I mean, like with RPG games, I want to explore things.
So do I.
And see, you know, what's what and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a shitty thing to do. I'm not surprised. And I'm almost not bothered, but it's like the way Dragon's Dogma sort of did their release was really, really shitty and underhand and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I am sort of like a bit sort of annoyed by it. But then at the end of the day, it's like, whatever, man. If you know, you're a dick if you're going to buy these things really anyway, aren't you? And Ubisoft does it with, you know, XP and shit like that, cutting corners, I call it.
Here's a question for you then, Pete. Taking away the microtransaction stuff. Now, if the microtransactions weren't there, what would you think? Would you applaud them for this idea that, yes, you can still fast travel, is still in the game, but it really is like, well, no, if you only got some of these crystals, then, you know, you're going to have to sometimes not fast travel because you can't be using up all your crystals. These crystals are hard to come by. Then you can't be zipping around the map. Sometimes you're going to have to actually make the journey. How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with that. That's what Morrowind was. With Morrowind, there was only one mark and recall. So as if I remember this rightly, you could only set one mark and recall to it. I don't think you could sort of set multiple marks. correct me if I'm wrong again, people, but yeah, I mean that's what Morrowind had, and I just thought that was fine. But it did have carriages and it did have boats. Well, it had silt striders, but it was like that, and I didn't mind it because at the time that's what RPGs were all about. It was about the immersion and exploring and having to travel to places. That's what RPGs are. You set them in a world where there's no horses, for instance, like Morrowind, then, well, fine. That's the world, isn't it? But if you're going to bring in microtransactions where you can fast travel, but you have to pay a price, fuck you, man. That's the way I see it.
So these crystals, from what I believe, these crystals, you can only place 10 of them in the world. So you can't place unlimited crystals. So the interesting thing is that even if you were to purchase these crystals that you can place as fast travel markers, you can only have 10 at any one time. So really, again, I'm not sure why you'd buy them.
Well, because you have to travel there first, haven't you?
Yeah, you can only place 10. If you could place infinite amounts, but you can't. You can only place up to 10.
Well, you have to travel there first, so you still have to travel. Yeah, I'm not bothered by that. I just think that it's sucky to have it as a microtransaction. But whatever. If mugs want to.
It is the fact they've included it as a microtransaction, but I think the concept isn't bad. I don't know if that's how I go about doing it. I don't know how I feel about placing your own fast travel markers. I mean, I guess it gives you freedom, I suppose, but
yeah.
Again, it's a fantasy game, so I can't sit here and say, well, that's not realistic. Well, there's magic and stuff, so I mean, if teleportation happens in that world, so I guess that's the way it is. But I don't know. It's not the answer for me, but at least there was a game. I mean, I don't know if the first one did it, but at least in this game, at least they have actually given you a reason not to fast travel and actually say, okay, so it's going to cost you X amount of crystals. You might want to save these crystals because if there's only so many of them around, or if they're very expensive to buy, then.
Well, is it so that if you place down these crystals, you can't pick it up again and use that again?
I don't know that. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can be.
That's a thing as well, really, isn't it? And if it's just like you can only place 10, and once you've dropped it, that's it. Then wow, okay. But
yeah, I'm actually not sure. I actually would have to check that. But I know you can only have 10 at any one time. Whether or not that you can move those around, I would have thought maybe you could. But
you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? But
at a cost, I would imagine. Also, it depends on how big the world map. I mean, we talk about 10. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if the world map's not that big, then you put one in each kind of corner of the map, and that's 4, and then one in the middle, that's 5, and maybe 10 is more than enough. Who knows? But again, it's interesting to see at least an RPG trying to kind of encourage. It shouldn't have to, but there we are. But it's encouraging people to, play their game and explore their game.
Yeah.
By not letting you zip around the map without having to pay some kind of a high price for it. So more games probably should do that, just not put it behind or encourage microtransactions because they know that people want to have more fast travel markers, which is what it is.
Well, Elder Scrolls, for instance, needs to go back to the Morrowind system, to be honest, where enemies don't scale to your level and so that there's that sort of progression factor feeling that you're actually getting somewhere and being able to sort of break the magic system and become powerful and stuff like that, but only at the upper end when you're high enough. RPGs need to have that level of progression and immersion with them, and without that, it's just an arcade game. It's not really an RPG. So,
yeah. Well, that's the last one I've got, Pete. If you've got anything else,
no, I'm all out of news. So,
Okay.
What did you think about all of this? Do you have any comments? If so, please let us know. I'm not going to beg. I'm not even going to say it. So, like, fuck you, because no one is subscribing. I think we'll cut that. And so, yeah, whatever, man. 69 is a good number. Fuck it. We don't want subscribers. All right.
We want to stay at 69. We just want to have that number, man.
Yeah, it's a great number. All right, everyone. Yeah, cool, man. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Take care.